My parents threw a party the night they came back from Europe. 40 people filled the house. Champagne glasses, laughter, music. My mom stood in the center of the living room, smiling like she had the perfect life. And then the doorbell rang. She opened the door, still smiling, until she saw the police standing there. 2 officers and a woman from Child Protective Services. The room went silent, 40 people watching, as my mother's perfect world began to fall apart. But here's the part no one in that room knew yet. That same mother had left her 11-year-old daughter alone for 30 days with $20 and a credit card that didn't even work. Now ask yourself something. What kind of parent leaves a child behind like that and still expects everything to be normal when they come home? And more importantly, what kind of child stays silent until the truth becomes impossible to hide? Because what happened next wasn't an accident. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It was something I had been quietly preparing day after day while I was starving in my own home. And when the truth finally came out, it didn't just ruin a party. It destroyed everything they had built. If you've ever felt invisible in your own family or wondered what happens when silence finally breaks, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. Because this story gets a lot darker before it ever gets better. And there's one detail, one thing I discovered, that changed everything. But no one, not even the police, saw it coming. The police didn't knock gently. They rang the doorbell, and then they knocked again, loud enough that 40 guests inside our living room went completely silent. My mother was in the middle of a toast, champagne glass raised, smiling, telling everyone about Paris, Rome, Santorini. Best month of our lives, she said. Then she opened the door, and everything ended. 2 police officers, a caseworker from Child Protective Services, standing right there, on our front porch. You could actually feel the room change. The music stopped, the laughter died, and for the first time in her life, my mother didn't know what to say. But here's the part no one in that room knew. While she was drinking champagne in Paris, her 11-year-old daughter was sitting on a kitchen floor, counting $20, trying to figure out how to survive 30 days. No groceries, no help, no one checking in, just a credit card that had never been activated. Now let me ask you something. If you were 11 years old, alone, hungry, and invisible, how long would it take before you realized no one was coming back to save you? Because I didn't just wait. I didn't just cry. I did something else, something no one expected, something that would follow my parents into that party and straight into handcuffs. And trust me, what really happened during those 30 days is a lot worse than you think. So if you want to understand how a perfect family falls apart in one night, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss what comes next, or stories like this that people are often too afraid to tell. Because later in this story, there's one moment, one piece of evidence that changes everything. And even now, most people still don't realize what it really meant. My name is Sydney Mitchell, and for most of my life, I thought being invisible was normal. We lived in a quiet neighborhood in suburban Denver, the kind of place where lawns were always trimmed, cars were always clean, and neighbors smiled like everything was exactly how it should be. From the outside, our family looked perfect. My mom, Diane Mitchell, she had over 10,000 followers on Instagram. Every week, she posted photos, family dinners, holiday decorations, weekend brunches, always the same caption: grateful, blessed, my beautiful family. People loved her. They commented things like, "You're such an amazing mom. Your life is goals." And every time I saw those comments, I wondered, who were they talking about? Because if you looked closely, you'd notice something strange. I wasn't really in those photos. Not completely. Sometimes just an arm, a shoulder, the side of my face, like I was there, but not important enough to be seen. My dad, Greg Mitchell, he worked long hours at an insurance company. He left early, came home late, ate dinner in silence, watched the news, then went to bed. He wasn't cruel. He just wasn't there. And in our house, that was enough to disappear. My mom made all the decisions. What we ate, where we went, what we said in front of other people, and most importantly, what we didn't say. In front of guests, she would smile, place a hand on my shoulder, and say, "Oh, Sydney's the easy one. She doesn't need much attention." Then she'd laugh, like it was something to be proud of. She likes being alone, right, sweetheart? She never waited for my answer, because my answer didn't matter. I learned that early. If I spoke up, she would sigh, a long, tired sigh, like I had just ruined her entire day. So I stopped speaking. I learned to make my own breakfast at 8 years old. I learned how to get to school by myself. I learned how to sign permission slips when she forgot. And she forgot a lot. But she never forgot to post, never forgot to smile for the camera, never forgot to show the world a version of our family that didn't exist. I used to think, maybe this is just how families are. Maybe every kid feels like they're in the background, trying to be quiet enough not to be a problem, trying to be good enough to be noticed, to be loved. And for a long time, I believed that if I just behaved, if I didn't ask for too much, eventually she would see me. But she never did, because to her, I wasn't a person. I was part of the picture, something to include when it made her life look complete, and something to ignore when it didn't. Looking back now, I realized something I didn't understand back then. I wasn't invisible by accident. I was invisible by design, because it's easier to leave someone behind when you've already convinced yourself they don't really matter. And 2 weeks before my parents left for Europe, I finally understood just how far they were willing to take that idea. Because that was the moment my mother made a decision that would prove I was never part of the family at all. 2 weeks before they left, my mom called me downstairs. She was sitting on the couch, laptop open, scrolling through flight options like she was choosing a movie. My dad stood by the window, not saying anything, not looking at me, just staring outside. "Sydney," my mom said, without looking up, "your father and I are going to Europe for a month." Her voice was light, casual, like she was telling me what we were having for dinner. "Paris, Rome, Santorini," she continued. "We really need a break." I stood there, trying to understand what she meant. "A month?" I asked. She nodded, still typing. "Who am I staying with?" That was the moment she finally looked at me and smiled. "You'll stay here." I didn't understand. "Here? With who?" "With yourself." The room went quiet. I felt something cold settle in my chest. A whole month. Her smile disappeared. "Sydney, don't be dramatic." That word again. Dramatic. "You're 11, she continued. "You know how to take care of yourself. I've taught you everything you need." I looked at my dad. He was still by the window, silent, like he wasn't part of the conversation. "Can Grandma come stay?" I asked quickly. "Or Aunt Ruth?" My mom's expression changed. Sharp. Number. Just one word. Firm. Final. "Grandma is busy," she added. "And you know I don't speak to Ruth." I didn't know why. I had never been told. I just knew her name wasn't allowed in our house. My mom stood up, walked over to her purse, and pulled something out. 2 $20 bills and a credit card. She placed them on the table in front of me. "That's for you," she said. I stared at the money. "That's $40. She shook her head slightly. "Number 20. She slid one bill back into her purse. "You won't need much." Then she tapped the card with her finger. "And this is for emergencies." I picked it up. It felt important, heavy. "Don't use it unless something serious happens," she said, like the house being on fire. I nodded slowly. Something didn't feel right, but I didn't know how to explain it. Or maybe I was too afraid to try. "Flight's Monday morning," she said, already turning away. "We'll be gone exactly 30 days. 30 days. I kept repeating that number in my head. 30 mornings. 30 nights. Alone. That night, I packed my own lunch for the next day. like everything was normal, like nothing was about to change. But something had already changed. I just didn't have the words for it yet. Monday morning came too fast. My mom was dressed like she was going somewhere important. Hair perfect, makeup flawless. She rolled her suitcase across the floor. My dad carried the bags outside. The Uber was already waiting. I stood by the front door, watching, waiting, hoping someone would stop, turn around, say this was a mistake, that of course they weren't leaving me alone, that of course someone would be staying with me, that of course I mattered. My mom didn't even look back. "Remember to lock the doors," she said, stepping outside. "And don't bother anyone." Then she added one more thing, something I didn't understand at the time, but would never forget. "You're old enough now." The door closed. The car drove away. And just like that, I was alone. I stood there for a long time. 5 minutes, maybe more, still holding the credit card in my hand, still expecting something to change. But nothing did. The house was quiet. Too quiet. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every sound felt louder. The refrigerator humming. The clock ticking. The wind outside the window. It didn't feel like my home anymore. It felt like a place I had been left in. The next morning, I opened the refrigerator. And that's when I realized this wasn't just about being alone, because there was almost nothing inside. And the moment I counted the money again, $20 for 30 days, I felt something I had never felt before. Not fear, not sadness, something worse. I felt completely on my own. And I still didn't know that the card they left me would never work at all. The first morning, I told myself it would be fine. I stood in the kitchen, opened the refrigerator, and just stared. Half a carton of milk, 4 eggs, a loaf of bread, already expired. No meat, no vegetables, nothing that felt like real food. I closed the door slowly. Then I opened it again, like somehow something might appear if I looked twice. It didn't. I walked over to the table and counted my money again. $20. I spread the bills flat, like maybe that would make them feel like more. Then I did the math. 30 days, $20. That's less than $1 a day. I remember standing there, trying to figure out how to eat, without actually eating. Maybe I could skip meals. Maybe I could just get used to being hungry. That was my plan. By the second day, I was already wrong. Hunger isn't quiet. It doesn't sit politely in the background. It grows. It twists. It reminds you, every minute, that something is missing. I tried to make the food last. Half a slice of bread in the morning, a scrambled egg at night, milk, only when I felt dizzy. By day 3, I knew it wasn't going to be enough, so I picked up the credit card, the emergency card. Maybe this counted. Maybe this was serious enough. I sat down with my mom's old iPad, opened a food delivery app, and ordered the cheapest thing I could find. A small pizza. I entered the card number, hit confirm, and waited. Processing. Then, declined. I blinked. Maybe I typed it wrong. I tried again, carefully this time. Every number, every detail. Confirm. Declined. My stomach dropped. I flipped the card over, called the number on the back, followed the automated voice, pressed the buttons, waited. This card is not activated. The words didn't make sense at first. Not activated. I hung up, stared at the card in my hand. Then I called again. Same message. Again. Same result. I sat there in silence, holding something that was supposed to help me, and realizing it was useless. That was the moment everything changed. Because now, it wasn't just about being alone. It wasn't just about being forgotten. This was something else, something colder, because someone had handed me this card, looked me in the eyes, and told me I would be fine, knowing I wouldn't be able to use it at all. I didn't cry. Not yet. I just sat there, trying to understand if this was a mistake or something worse. By day 4, I went to the grocery store, alone. I walked through the aisles slowly, picking things up, checking the price, putting them back, over and over again. Ramen noodles, 79 cents. White bread, $1.29. Peanut butter, Too expensive. I stood there for a long time, doing math in my head, like my life depended on it. Because it did, in the end. I bought 6 packs of ramen and 1 loaf of bread. That was my first $10. Half my money, gone. At the register, the cashier looked at me. You shopping alone, sweetie? I froze for a second. Then I smiled. My mom's in the car. She nodded. Like that made sense. Like everything was normal. I carried the bag home myself, set it on the kitchen counter, and stared at it. This was all I had for the next 26 days. That night, I made my first pack of ramen, but I didn't eat all of it. I split it in half. Half for dinner, half for tomorrow morning. Because now, every bite mattered. Every dollar mattered. Every decision mattered. By day 5, my hands started to shake. Not all the time. Just enough to notice. Just enough to know something was wrong. That was the day I decided to call my mom. Because maybe, just maybe, she didn't know. Maybe this really was a mistake. Maybe if I explained it, she would fix it. I held the phone in my hand, staring at her name on the screen. And for a moment, I felt like a little kid again. Not invisible, not forgotten. Just a daughter calling her mother for help. I pressed call, and I had no idea that conversation was about to make everything worse. When my mom answered the phone, I could hear music in the background. Laughter, glasses clinking, like she was somewhere beautiful. Hello, she said. Her voice sounded light, distracted. Mom, it's me. A pause, then a sigh. Sydney? What is it? I swallowed. The card. It's not working. Another pause. Longer this time. Then she laughed. A small laugh. The kind people use when they think something is ridiculous. What do you mean it's not working? I tried to buy food, I said quietly. It says it's not activated. Her tone changed. Not concerned. Annoyed. Sydney, you're being dramatic again. That word. Again. I'm not, I said, my voice shaking now. I only have a few dollars left. I don't have enough food. She exhaled sharply. I gave you money. $20. That's plenty if you know how to manage it. She cut in. You don't need to eat constantly. I felt my throat tighten. Mom, I'm hungry. Silence. For a moment, I thought maybe this was where she would hear me. Understand. Care. But instead, her voice came back colder. I'm at dinner right now. I could hear it clearly now. People talking. Soft music. A waiter speaking in the background. I can't deal with this, she continued. You always do this. Do what? Make everything a problem. My fingers tightened around the phone. I'm not making it a problem, I whispered. There's no food. She didn't respond right away. Then she said something that stayed with me longer than anything else. Then eat less. Just like that. Simple. Easy. Like hunger was a choice. Mom, click. The line went dead. I sat there, staring at the phone in my hand, waiting for it to ring again. For her to call back, to say she didn't mean it. She never did. That night, I opened her Instagram. Her newest post was already up. A photo of her, standing in front of the Eiffel Tower, wearing a dress I had never seen before, holding a glass of champagne, smiling. The caption read, "Living my best life." I stared at that sentence for a long time. Then I looked down at the bowl in front of me. Half a pack of ramen, no flavor left, no warmth, just something to fill the emptiness. For a few more hours, the comments kept coming in. You deserve this. You look so happy. Perfect family. Perfect. I don't know what hurt more, the hunger or the realization that no one could see what was really happening. That night, I picked up the iPad, the old one she gave me, because she didn't need it anymore. I opened the camera, and I just sat there. For a moment, I didn't know what to say. Then I pressed record. Today is day 5, I said. My voice sounded different, quieter. I tried to use the card again. It doesn't work. I turned the camera, pointed it at the kitchen, the empty counter, the single loaf of bread. My mom is in Paris, I continued. She posted a picture today. I paused. I ate half a pack of ramen. I stopped recording, watched it back. It felt strange, like I was watching someone else. Someone I didn't recognize. I didn't know why I did it. Not yet, but something inside me had started to shift. Because for the first time, I realized something important. If no one was going to listen to me, then maybe I needed a way to make them see. The next morning, someone knocked on my door, and that was the moment everything started to change. The knock on the door, it startled me. I wasn't expecting anyone. For a second, I just stood there, frozen, because my mom's voice echoed in my head. Don't bother anyone. Don't let anyone know. I walked slowly to the door and opened it just a little. It was Mr. Harold. He lived next door, 70 years old, quiet, always polite. He used to wave at me when I walked to school, but we had never really talked. Hey there, kiddo, he said gently. His eyes moved over my face, like he was noticing something. I haven't seen your parents' cars in a few days, he continued. Everything okay? I nodded quickly. Yes, sir. They're just on a trip. He didn't answer right away, just kept looking at me. Not in a rude way, in a way that made me feel seen, really seen. You been eating? He asked quietly. The question caught me off guard. I swallowed. Yes, I said, but my voice didn't sound convincing. Not even to me. He nodded slowly, like he understood something I hadn't said out loud. Well, he said, stepping back slightly, I made too much dinner tonight. A small pause. Would hate for it to go to waste. I knew he was lying. He lived alone, but I also knew I was too hungry to say no. That evening, I sat at his kitchen table, a real table, with real food, spaghetti, warm, fresh. I ate faster than I meant to. Couldn't stop myself, and he didn't say anything. Didn't ask questions. Just sat across from me, watching quietly. After a while, he spoke again. Where are your parents? Really, something in his voice made it hard to lie. And for the first time, I told someone the truth. Everything. The trip, the money, the car that didn't work, the hunger. He didn't interrupt, didn't react right away, just listened. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair and let out a long breath. That's not right, he said finally. Simple. But it felt important, like someone had finally said the thing I didn't know how to say. Do you want me to call someone? He asked. The police. A relative. My heart started racing. No, I said quickly. Please don't. Why not? My mom said, if I tell anyone. I stopped. I didn't need to finish the sentence. He understood. He nodded slowly. All right, he said. I won't call anyone. A pause. But I'm not going to pretend this is okay either. He leaned forward slightly. I'll bring you food. Every day. I looked at him. You don't have to. I know, he said gently. But I'm going to. Then he added something else. Something I didn't fully understand at the time. If anything feels wrong, write it down. I frowned slightly. Why? Because sometimes, he said, the truth needs proof. That night, I went home with a full stomach. For the first time in days. But something had changed. Because now, I knew someone else knew. And that made everything feel different. At school, things started to shift too. I couldn't hide it anymore. I was tired. My clothes were wrinkled. My hair unbrushed. I didn't look like myself. And teachers notice things like that, even when they don't say it out loud. Mrs. Patterson, my homeroom teacher, watched me closely. Sydney, she said one morning, are you feeling all right? Yes, ma'am. She didn't push, but she didn't look convinced either. By the third day, I almost fainted in class. Everything started spinning. The room blurred. My hands felt weak. And then, darkness. When I opened my eyes, I was in the nurse's office, lying on a bed. The nurse stood beside me, concern written all over her face. Have you eaten today? She asked. Yes, I said. But this time, even I could hear the lie. She looked at me for a long moment, then at Mrs. Patterson. They didn't say anything, but something passed between them. Something serious. That afternoon, I felt it. Not hunger, not fear, something else. Like the world was starting to notice. And once people start noticing, they don't always stay silent. Because somewhere, someone had already decided this wasn't something they could ignore anymore. And very soon, that decision was going to bring someone to my door who would change everything. After that day, I stopped waiting for things to get better. I stopped hoping someone would fix it. Instead, I started recording everything. Every morning, I picked up the iPad, pressed record, and told the truth. Day 18, I said one morning. I walked into the kitchen, opened the refrigerator, and held the camera steady. 2 eggs, half a loaf of bread. That's all I have left. I turned the camera toward myself. My face looked different, thinner, paler. I feel dizzy today, I said quietly. I don't think I have enough food for the rest of the week. Click. I stopped recording. The next day, I did it again and again. Day 19, day 20, day 21. Every video, a little worse than the one before. I filmed the scale in the bathroom. 84 pounds, then 83, then lower. I filmed the ramen wrappers in the trash. I filmed the empty cabinets. I even read my mom's messages out loud, so there would be no confusion later. Stop being dramatic. You have everything you need. Don't call me again. Each word, clear, undeniable, and slowly, without realizing it, I stopped feeling powerless, because now I had something, proof, not just feelings, not just words, evidence. Mr. Harold noticed the change. You've been recording a lot, he said one evening, placing a sandwich in front of me. I nodded, in case no one believes me. He looked at me for a long moment. Then he said something that stayed with me. They will. A pause, but only if the right person sees it. That same week, something else was happening. Something I didn't know about yet. At school, Mrs. Patterson had been keeping notes, dates, observations, everything she had seen. The weight loss, the exhaustion, the way I looked, like I was slowly disappearing. And she wasn't the only one. The school nurse had filed a report, not officially yet, but enough to start asking questions, because in situations like that, teachers aren't allowed to ignore what they see. They're required to act, even if it makes people uncomfortable, even if it breaks the image of a perfect family. Then, the anonymous call came in. A concerned neighbor, no name given, just one message. A student named Sydney needs help. That call changed everything, because now it wasn't just suspicion, it was a case. The school sent an email to my mom. Urgent. We need to speak with you immediately regarding your daughter's health. 48 hours. No response. They called again. Nothing. And that's when the system moved forward. Without her. A formal report was filed. Child Protective Services opened an investigation. A caseworker was assigned. Her name was Karen. The night before she came, my mom finally sent me a message. No greeting, no concern. Just one paragraph. If you say anything to anyone, I will tell them you're lying. I stared at the screen. My hands didn't shake this time. Something inside me had changed. Because now, I wasn't afraid of her words anymore. I picked up the iPad, pressed record. Day 22, I said. My mom just threatened me. I read the message out loud. Every word, slowly, clearly. Then I looked straight into the camera. I'm not lying, I said. And I'm not staying quiet anymore. Click. The next morning, there was another knock on the door. But this time, it wasn't my neighbor. When I opened it, a woman stood there, professional, calm, observing everything at once. Hi, Sydney, she said gently. My name is Karen. A small pause. I'm from Child Protective Services. And in that moment, I realized something I hadn't understood before. All those videos, all those days, they hadn't just been for me. They had been leading to this. Because now, someone had finally come to see the truth for themselves. And what they were about to find was worse than anyone expected. The day my parents came home, the sky was clear, bright, peaceful, like nothing bad had ever happened. By 5 o'clock, the house was full. Cars lined the street. Voices filled every room. 40 people, laughing, talking, celebrating. From across the street, I watched it all, standing by Mr. Harold's window. Quiet, still, like I didn't belong to that house anymore. Inside, everything looked perfect. Decorations, food, music. a banner stretched across the wall. Welcome home. And in the center of it all, my mother, smiling, radiant, wearing a dress she probably bought in Europe. She moved through the crowd, telling stories, laughing, reliving the best month of her life. Our trip was incredible, she said, raising her glass. Honestly, the best time we've ever had. People nodded, smiled, admired her. No one questioned anything. Because why would they? She looked like someone who had everything. One guest asked, "Where's Sydney?" My mother didn't hesitate. "Oh, she's upstairs resting," she said lightly. "You know how kids are." I felt something inside me. Go quiet. Not pain, not anger, just clarity. Because in that moment, I understood something completely. She wasn't lying to protect me. She was lying to protect herself. The slideshow started playing on the TV. Paris, Rome, Santorini. Every picture, perfect. Every smile, rehearsed. Not a single photo of me. Then, the doorbell rang. My mother smiled, walked toward the door, expecting another guest. She opened it and froze. Standing there was Karen, calm, professional, holding a folder. Behind her, 2 police officers, uniformed, silent, watching. For a second, no one spoke. Then Karen said, "Mrs. Mitchell, we need to talk." My mother forced a smile. "I'm sorry, now isn't a good time. I'm hosting." "Ma'am," one of the officers interrupted. "We have a warrant." The room went quiet, completely quiet. 40 people, watching, listening, trying to understand. "You and your husband are being charged with child endangerment." The words landed, heavy, real, irreversible. My mother laughed, too quickly, too sharply. "There must be some mistake," she said. "My daughter is fine. She's upstairs." Karen didn't move. "Your daughter is not upstairs." A pause. "She's been under protective care." You could feel the shift. The room, changing. The air, tightening. Karen opened the folder. "We have video evidence," she said. "Medical reports, financial records." My mother's face started to crack. "Video," Karen nodded toward the television. "Play it." The slideshow disappeared. And then, my face appeared on the screen. "Day 15, my voice said. The room didn't breathe. I stood there, on that screen, opening the refrigerator. Empty. Almost nothing inside. "I have $3 left," I said. "I don't know how much longer I can do this." Someone in the room gasped. The video cut. Another one. Day 18. The scale. 83 pounds. "My mom is in Monaco," I said. "She's eating at a restaurant I could never afford." Silence. Heavy. Uncomfortable. Another video. Reading her messages. "Stop being dramatic." The words echoed through the room. Clear. Undeniable. My mother shook her head. No, she's lying." But no one agreed. No one stepped forward. Not this time. Because now, they could see it. All of it. One of the guests spoke up. "I'm her teacher," Mrs. Patterson said. "I saw what happened to her." Another voice followed. A woman near the back. "I made the call," she said quietly. I couldn't ignore it. The room turned toward her. Truth, finally spoken out loud. My father stood frozen, pale, silent. Then suddenly, he spoke. "This wasn't my idea," he said. My mother turned toward him. "What?" "You said she'd be fine," he continued. "You told me not to worry." And just like that, the last piece broke. Not just the image, the illusion, the partnership, everything. The officers stepped forward. "You have the right to remain silent." The words faded into the background because no one was listening anymore. They were watching the truth replace the lie. My mother looked around the room, desperate, searching for someone, anyone, to stand with her. No one did. Not a single person. They walked her out in handcuffs, past the guests, past the decorations, past the life she had built, on appearances. My father followed, head down, broken. The door closed behind them. And just like that, it was over. I stood by the window, watching the police car disappear down the street. And for the first time in 30 days, I took a deep breath. Not because everything was fixed. Not because everything was okay. but because the truth was finally out. And once the truth is seen, it can never be hidden again. If you step back from everything that happened and look at this story through a clinical lens, this was never just about a vacation. It was about neglect, emotional and physical, because leaving a child alone for 30 days with no support isn't a mistake, it's a decision. And more importantly, it's a pattern. In many families like this, everything looks perfect on the outside. Smiles, photos, carefully chosen words. But behind closed doors, there's silence, there's absence, and there's a child learning how to disappear just to survive. Sydney's story matters, not because of what her parents lost, but because of what she found, her voice, her boundaries, and the courage to say, "This is not okay." That moment, when she stopped protecting the people who hurt her and started protecting herself. That's not betrayal. That's awareness. That's growth. And for many people watching this, especially those who grew up in homes where love was conditional or attention had to be earned, this story may feel familiar, maybe not in the same way, but in the feeling, the quiet loneliness, the sense that something was wrong, but no one ever said it out loud. So let me say it clearly. You are allowed to speak the truth about your own life. You are allowed to set boundaries, even with family, and you are allowed to choose distance if that's what keeps you safe. Healing doesn't always look like forgiveness. Sometimes it looks like clarity. It looks like walking away without needing an apology and building a life where you are finally seen. If this story resonated with you, if it made you feel something, or reminded you of something you've been carrying for a long time, take a moment and let yourself acknowledge that. And if you'd like to hear more stories like this, stories about truth, about boundaries, about finding your way back to yourself, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Not just so you don't miss what comes next, but so you remind yourself that these conversations matter, because at the end of the day, family isn't defined by who's related to you. It's defined by who shows up, who stays, and who never asks you to suffer in silence. And sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is tell the truth and let it change everything.